You've got investment bank China Renaissance Group only invests in Chinese companies, including such household names as Didi Guxing, Meituan Dianping, Xiaomei, and Mobike. Fan Bao is chairman and CEO, and he's here with me now. Fan.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me about it. Okay, what's your view, before we come to your investments, etc., of the listing story, and perhaps Hong Kong is all changing its listing rules?
I think it's interesting that both Hong Kong and China are changing their listing rules to try to attract more new economy companies back to a listing. Historically, both places are underrepresented in terms of the new economy companies. And I think their investors like to have more opportunity investing in these new economy champions. So overall, it's very positive news.
So would you be looking at some of those companies that you're invested in as they mature and you look for your exit strategy to be perhaps looking closer to home now?
As an investor, we always welcome more options, right? So I think as a...
Very diplomatic, that.
Well, no, not diplomatic. Actually, it's true because I think we invest in these companies, and historically, the main route of exit or listing is really U.S. market. Now we have both, Hong Kong and China for consider. It's good. It's good for a company. And remember, a lot of the Chinese are internet companies or consumer companies. So be able to list it in China and have their users and the investors sometimes at the same as one is actually very helpful. Extremely good marketing and branding events.
Losing out on the Alibaba IPO was pretty tough for Hong Kong. Do you think some of these reforms are enough to attract these unicorns as they head towards the exit?
We don't know the technical details yet. A lot of stuff is still being worked out. But I think as a DR structure is actually not that complicated. Remember, quite a few years ago, China has this concept of an international board. A lot of the rules and regulations back then with design can be used for the CDR concept.
I'm just curious because there were a lot of reports, and particularly as we're in the middle of the NPC at the moment, right? A lot of reports that you see this blurring of lines between politics and business in China. Reports that Beijing was looking to not just take a direct stake in some of the big names like Tencent and Weibo and Alibaba, but also taking a direct role in corporate decisions. I'm just curious as to how you feel about that as an investor.
You talk about the golden shares. So-called golden shares.
That's right.
We heard about the concept of that. We haven't really seen much of the details or even the plans for implementing that. So at the moment, it's not much of a concern.
Let's move a little bit, Fan, to look at some of the companies you're invested in and how they're doing at the moment. So tell me about how you pick a company, first of all. What are the basic things that you're looking at? There's so many criteria, but I mean, you've got to be...
First and foremost, there's people.
Yeah.
You got to, in our industry, you always bet on the right people. So you want to find the right entrepreneurs to bet on them. That's the most important.
But the idea's got to be fundamentally right as well.
Well, you obviously have the market has to be there. The business model has to be viable. But fundamentally, every single time when we look at all the good deals we made, all the bad deals made, people make a huge difference.
And what is the split between those good and the bad deals? How many frogs do you have to kiss before you get a prince?
You're LP, LP. I think we tend to think, historically, we probably made, on percentage-wise, a little bit more, better bets than the worst bets. But just about.
Give us an idea of what sector are you really most interested in or see as being most compelling at the moment?
I think what's happening in China last year is, in addition to some of the well-known decacorn names, which still attract a lot of capital, people turn attention to real innovations. So there's a lot of companies in artificial intelligence, robotics, and driverless, biotech that is attracting a lot of capital. That's certainly the area we're looking to as well.
You've invested a lot in transport sharing, ride sharing, but I wanted to ask about bike sharing companies, Ofo and Mobike. Do you think we're going to see consolidation for this sector in the same way that we've seen Didi Chuxing and the likes of Uber consolidate in China?
Not necessarily. I think in that industry, the dynamics are quite different. The bike sharing from most, actually by now, people see that as a great way of acquiring, offline traffic, offline users. The whole market in itself, the business model in itself, is yet to be proven. So I think how the industry is going to play out is going to be quite different from the ride-sharing sector.
Unmanned shelves, unmanned convenience stores, that's the next wave as well. And you're invested in one company, I think it's called Xingbian Li. How's it doing?
It's doing quite well. It's doing quite well. I mean, the whole retail sector has been revamped. Basically, we're empowering them with digital capabilities. It's still retail, still offshore, still going to shops, but the shops is going to be enabled with all sorts of new capabilities and recognize you as a user. Or when you walk in, when you buy stuff, you don't need to pay. You use electronic payments. The whole supply chain is going to be managed more efficiently. So it's a quite exciting space to be in right now.
You're an investor in Xiaomi.
Yes.
So tell me about the IPO.
Well, you read it in the news, I mean, I might as well go to your terminal to find out more.
Come on. Tell us a little bit about how long, what sort of money you're trying to raise, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, there's just so much reports being written. Also, they're I think they're in a quiet period, so there's limited I can tell. But I think it's going to
be excited though.
Must be the large. I think it must be most high-profile IPOs of the year. So let's knock on the wood. Yeah, it will go well. Yeah.
What's most likely when it comes to venue for Xiaomi?
The what? I'm sorry?
Venue.
Listing venue? Hong Kong for sure. I understand there's also discussion going on in terms of a simultaneous listing on Asia.
Valuation of $100 billion?
We don't know.
We don't know that yet.
We can only hope for.
All right. The next big thing, Heidi talked about that, but what is going to be the next big thing?
What is it going to be?
Yeah, and what are you investing in? I mean, is it AI? Is it, what is it, the Internet of Things, et cetera?
I mean, that, we made a lot of investment, but I think when it comes to the property market, it's going to take a while. The next things are people going to focus on the new trail, we call it Total, Meituan, and Didi. These are what we call it, mobile internet new trails in China, right? So eyes are on it, when these new trails are going to come to the market.